8th, 2018. And so I wanted to bring you this report today I'm going to back up a little bit. I want to explain a theory and a couple of government operations that you need to know about. And what happens when you get stuck in the mud by watching other videos that say this is a PSYOP, which there are PSYOPs going on. There's no doubt about that. But so let me just say this. For those of you that have been digging, and I call it hunting the octopus for 20 years or more, 25 years, and a lot of us really intently, like it has consumed like a lot of our lives since 9/11. We learned about some basic things, a couple of many more operations than just the two I'm going to discuss here. But I think these are the basic ones that I want to go over for the people that are kind of new to this whole, like, you're waking up and you're finding yourself in the middle of like, what the hell is going on and why is the world the way it is? And you're also dealing with the QAnon thing, which is it's a lot. And I hear a yearning to understand. So you're facing a different problem than the people who have been doing this for a long time. So you're going to come across videos on YouTube that are going to try to tell you that Julian Assange is CIA and everything is from, it was created by DARPA, and those are real things. Now, I'm just telling you, DARPA's for real. We'll get into that in another video. I don't want to get off track, but yeah, there's lots of things that have gone on in the past, and I'm going to say they've been going on for a very long time, okay? Way before America was even, the New World was even discovered. That's, history that we were never taught in school and or college. It's all hidden history that you've never known about. So the new people are dealing with, being stuck in the mud because they don't understand the past. And the veteran people are getting stuck because they're so stuck in the past, they can't even conceive of the fact that, and this is not a knock, okay? This is where we are. I happen to fall somewhere in between in my thinking, but the people that have been digging at this and know about the Federal Reserve and know about the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and they know about, oil wars and the funding of both sides of the war by our own government and false flag operations. Okay. Yeah. We know, a lot of us know all of that. So we're coming into this like, no. So I want to explain some basic things that will help the people that have been in the truth movement for some time understand, we need to understand how they think and I'm one of them, and why they're resistant to this movement. So this is going to be like and then we need to also, if we've been in the movement for a long time, we need to understand that new people are very overwhelmed. Okay. A lot of people are just finding out and taking the red pill. Like I don't know about you guys, but it threw me into a depression. I'm not a depressed person. You guys can tell by my past if you've heard any of my other videos. I'm very upbeat, funny, a good sense of humor. I don't really get down in the dumps, but I'm telling you, when I learned of some of these things that new people are having to deal with on top of QAnon, it's no wonder that everyone is lost in a swamp instead of what I call getting stuck in the mud, okay? So let me get on with it, because otherwise I'll bloviate for 45 minutes and get all kinds of hate mail. So let me just go on to, I'm going to explain a theory first. Now, if those of you who are old timers, just bear with me and kind of remind yourself of these things and ask yourself if this is why you're getting stuck, okay? So there's something called the Hegelian dialectic, and I'm not going to get deep into it. So I'm just going to give you the basics because I don't want to information overload. So it's like thesis, antithesis, and remember, I can't talk. Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, okay? Or simply put, problem, reaction, solution. This is the basic thing. There's a problem, and then there's a reaction to the problem, and out of that comes the solution to the problem. And the solution, or the synthesis, is usually something that people think ahead of, and that's the exact solution they want. So they create the problem, causing the people to have a reaction, and then they provide the very solution that we would have never taken in the first place. I hope that's kind of clear, and you'll see what I mean because I'm gonna read it to you here. So basically, the Hegelian dialectic, usually presented in a threefold manner, was stated by this guy who I can't even say his name. You'll have to read Chilibos. As comprising three dialectic stages of development: a thesis giving rise to its reaction, an antithesis which contradicts or negates the thesis, and the tension between the two being resolved by a means of synthesis. In more simplistic terms, one consider it problem, reaction, solution. Although this model is often named after Hegel, G.W.F. Hegel, he's over there on the right, he himself never used that specific formulation. And then it goes on, and I really just wanted to read you that first part. It's been modified a lot since then. We have the modern Hegelian dialectic, and it's kind of everywhere you look. And now that for the new people who are just like thinking about this, it's been used to do such things as the 9/11 happened, so that was the problem that that our government created to cause a specific reaction within the community, which was to be, traumatized. Okay, so that's a little MK Ultra going on there, but in social engineering. So that gave rise to, we gladly accepted the Patriot Act, which you have to get, that's another whole video. But the Patriot Act is not constitutional. We can arrest anybody. We don't have to read them their rights. They have no writ of habeas corpus. They lose, basically, if the government thinks that you're involved in quote unquote terrorism, they can, or you're giving away national security information or whatever, they can just seize you. You lose your constitutional rights. They put you in jail. And if you want to look some people up that this has happened to, Susan Landauer, I think that's how you say her name, Laudenauer. I'll put a link in the. She knew about Saddam Hussein, the truth about him before, at 9/11. Like, basically 9/11 happened and we didn't go after Afghanistan, we went after Iraq. She knew about all of this, and she also knew about 9/11 prior to it happening. And also another person is Sibel Edmonds, who she had the same thing, although they didn't use the full Patriot Act, but she is considered, quote, the most gagged woman in America. So look up their stories. But anyway, you'll hear about it a little bit later. So this principle is really important because a lot of us have this in our head. So we're always like, oh, So the older generation, the people that have been researching this forever, is thinking, okay, is this a Hegelian dialectic, be it like a false flag? It's basically what it is. It's the setup or the psychology behind a false flag, okay? So let me play this video for you guys. And this explains it just a little bit. This is going to be by a little bit of a controversial person who I don't agree with everything he says, but he does have a very good way of explaining problem, reaction, solution. It's David Icke, and he's got good information and bad information. Again, basically, take the good and throw out the bad. So this is a good one. Hold on.
There are several key mind manipulation techniques which are very, very powerful propaganda tools. The most effective and the most powerful, and it's used on us all the time, is something I call problem, reaction, solution. It's a cracker, this one. It's a mind manipulation technique that avoids not only opposition to what is the goal of the manipulators, it actually manipulates people to demand they do what they want to do anyway. And it's happening all the time. Once you see this technique and how it works, you watch the news and read the newspapers in a completely different light because you start to see it happening. It works like this. You start by secretly creating a problem in the world and making sure someone else is blamed for it in the public arena, in the public mind. It could be a run on a currency, it could be a government collapse, at its most extreme it could be a war. Because the two world wars in this century were funded, all sides were funded by the same people. Provable. the same people that funded the Allies in the Second World War and funded the Soviet Union also funded Hitler. Through loans from America, known as the Young Plan and Dawes Plan, and also via the German subsidiaries of American multinational companies. Why would they do that? Why would someone want to fund all sides in a war? What is good is a war? Well, first of all, on one level, it makes vast amounts of money if you're lending money to all sides and you're also selling them lots of arms and all that stuff. But the fundamental reason for a war is to change the nature of post-war society. And what we saw in the First World War and the Second World War were massive global examples of problem-reaction solutions, which work like this. The problem is created secretly. You then use the media, which isn't difficult, to wind up public opinion in relation to your manufactured problem to the point where public opinion utters the classic words, "Something must be done, this can't go on," which is always followed by, "Give my power away, what are they going to do about it?" And at that point, those who created the problem and got someone else to be blamed for it, wound up that public reaction, then openly, in the public arena, in the parlance of the world, in the newspapers and on the television, offer the solutions to the problems they have created. Doing so, they get vast numbers of people to demand what they want to do. Well, get people frightened, and the first thing people do when they're in fear about something is they look for someone out there to protect them from what they're frightened of. So, get people frightened that they're going to be burgled, get people frightened that they're going to be mugged in the streets, and they'll demand you take the freedoms away. They'll demand cameras in the streets and more authoritarian laws. And we have a very problem going on in the last few years. Problem, reaction, solution.
Okay. So you can see just by that little clip there that, this has definitely been a problem. So the older veteran people that are not new to this, this is always in our mind. So when Q pops up, you're like, okay, what is it that they want us to cry out for? They're wanting us to cry out for, the problem that I have with that I'll explain all this in the end, but basically there's not too many people crying out for something to be done about the Rothschilds. So, we can sort of, okay, that'll answer that one, but, their psyops are getting a little more sophisticated, but we'll come back to this. So let's go to the next. All right, so the next thing I wanted you guys to know about was 2 operations. One is called Operation Mockingbird, and really I should have made it 3. So if you've never heard of Operation Paperclip, please go and look that up. It's really something you should know, like how much they manipulate. It's unbelievable. I'm not going to get into that here. Just go and look up Operation Paperclip. You can literally just go to YouTube and type Operation Paperclip in, and you'll get more information than you ever wanted to know. So I'm sure you've heard, for the new people, now the old people, I'm definitely not trying to insult your intelligence. I'm sure you're aware of this, but we have a lot of new people that just need to know these things. So Operation Mockingbird was an alleged it says alleged, don't you love WikiLeaks? It wasn't alleged. It was a large-scale program of the United States Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, that began in the early 1950s and attempted to manipulate news media for propaganda purposes. It funded student and cultural organizations and magazines as front organizations. I will leave the link for this. You can read the rest of it. It's a good little synopsis of it. And if you just, again, Google Operation Mockingbird or YouTube Operation Mockingbird, you can find everything you need to know. And it's very, it's really, that's why we call the media the Mockingbird media. Okay. So this definitely is in play. So let's watch this. Think the CIA wasn't involved in Operation Mockingbird from real early on? Yeah, they were. So here you go.
I thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. And we're looking at that very carefully.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in an executive session.
At CBS, we had been contacted by the CIA. As a matter of fact, by the time I became the head of the whole news and public affairs operation in 1954, ships had been established, and I was told about them and asked if I'd carry on with them.
We have quite a lot of detailed information, and we will evaluate it, and we will include any evidence of wrongdoing or any evidence of impropriety in our final report and make recommendations.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I prefer to handle in executive session.
Senator, do you think you named any parliamentary? That remains to be decided.
I think it was entirely in order for our correspondents at that time to make use of the CIA agency chiefs of station and other members of the executive staff of the CIA as sources of information which were useful in their assessments of world conditions.
Would you say that continues today?
Well, I would think probably for a reporter it would continue today, but because of all of the revelations of the period of the 1970s, it seems to me that reporters have to be much more circumspect in doing it now, or he runs the risk of at least being looked at with considerable disfavor by the public. I think you've got to be much more careful about it.
Yeah, so there you go. Unbelievable. So the thing is that a lot of us have known this like for a long time, but like I said, I'm doing this for the new guys, that you're trying to wrap your head around this, and it's a lot to take in. But knowing that this has been going on forever and there's never been anything done about it, it's just lies. Like basically a number of years ago, someone tried to make a Freedom of Information request for the records that concerned Operation Mockingbird. And there were 6 documents that were released. They were kind of sketchy and doxed. So I've put the link in the description for you guys to go and see those documents, the PDFs of them. There's a website that has them, and I'll include that for you. Unreal. So you can see that social engineering has been going on for quite some time. So let's see what I have next here. All right, so I'll leave it at that but let's go over Operation Gladio, which is the second big one I think we should discuss, because this is something that has not been talked about a lot at all. There's very few people who really understand this, and I spent weeks digging into this. I mean, this was a total rabbit hole that I went down for, and it's so important to know. But Operation Gladio is a code name for a clandestine North Atlantic Treaty Organization, stay-behind operations, NATO, stay-behind operations in Italy during the Cold War. Its purpose was to prepare for and implement armed resistance in the event of a Warsaw Pact invasion and conquest. The name Gladio is the Italian name form of gladius, a type of Roman short sword. Although Gladio specifically refers to the Italian branch of the NATO stay-behind organizations, Operation Gladio is used as an informal name for all of them. Stay-behind operations were prepared in many NATO member countries and some neutral countries. The role of the CIA in Gladio and the extent of its activities during the Cold War and any relationship to terrorist attacks perpetrated in Italy during the years of lead, the late 60s and to early 80s, are the subject of debate. Switzerland and Belgium have had parliamentary inquiries into the matter. Well, Belgium is actually the capital of NATO. There's lots of good videos. I'm again in the description. I'm going to link a whole series of videos done by the Corbett Report and Sibel Edmonds. She wrote a book called Lone Gladio, where I'm not going to get into it, but it was a great read. There's a story on YouTube about her to kill the messenger. She talks about all this. So I'm going to put, if you on a Saturday, if you want to stay warm and watch some good information, I recommend highly to watch all of those, because now it's morphed into Gladio B, which basically is a boogeyman. And it's just like during the Ukraine when, clandestine services were sent in there to foment war. Okay. It's that kind of thing. It's like once we take anyway, it's a long story and I don't do a very good job of explaining it because it's an octopus inside of an octopus. Okay. It involves NATO. It involves all kinds of things. And they're very active within false flag operations today, especially like the Paris issue, when the Paris bombing, and just a lot of different things. But she goes through all of that. A lot of things with Turkey in the Middle East was definitely the destabilization of the Middle East was definitely a Gladio operation. But then it morphed from communism being the boogeyman back then into radical Islamic terrorism, okay, and which is the boogeyman that we were dealing with up until just recently, basically. And it was really genius because it was an enemy that we could never really defeat because they were just like nomads roaming around Afghanistan and through the Middle East, and we could never conquer, basically. And the reasons behind it are all in those videos that I told you about. But now, so people are saying, okay, the people that are getting stuck in the mud, and I understand why, is fear didn't work with us. The fear just didn't really we kind of got lazy, and everybody was just kind of like, well, maybe someday something will be done about this. But alone, we all never knew what we could really do about it because it's so big. And this new type of thing, they're saying, I don't know, I'm not making any sense. I'm so sorry. Don't leave me any comments about me going on, like stumbling like this, but I'm trying to say it the best way I can. Since fear wasn't working, the new working theory that they say is, well, since fear wasn't working, let's give them some hope porn, okay? And let's get them all hopeful, and we'll just continue on with our normal operations. But now we're gonna do away with it, and we'll come up with a new boogeyman down the road, right? So, and I understand that thinking because a lot of us are just, our minds are stuck in the mud, like, this will never be taken care of. We're always going to deal with this. And yeah, we are to some point if we don't all get together and defeat this. I'll tell you my theory on why I don't believe that's the case at the end. Okay, so the next thing. Watch this video. This talks about Gladio B in a short form.
I briefly touched upon the shady tactics used by the governments to foment public support for war. One such program by the U.S. was put in place during the Cold War, called Operation Gladio, the aim of which was to have paramilitary organizations stay behind the Eastern Bloc to continue the destabilization of regional powers. And although the program was finally acknowledged in 2006 and is said to be long over, some allege that it never really ended. Instead, this clandestine operation simply morphed to fit the needs of the war on terror. Here to help me break down this very important and convoluted subject is James Corbett, independent journalist and host of the Corbett Report. Thanks for coming on, James.
Thank you for having me, Abby.
So what did Operation Gladio consist of, and how far-reaching was the program?
Well, you were recently on the program talking about the top 5 conspiracies that turned out to be true, and I think Operation Gladio has to rank up there among them. Gladio is the code name for a clandestine operation that, as you indicate, was set up by NATO in conjunction with the CIA in the wake of World War II as the Cold War started to develop. And the official cover of this program was that it was designed as a stay-behind program to fund, train, equip, supply, and otherwise facilitate groups to be ready in the case of a Soviet invasion of Europe. And if that were to happen, basically these groups would be able to resist the Soviet occupation forces while NATO prepared some sort of military response. That was at least the official cover for what was happening, but ultimately what resulted from this was over the course of the 5 decades of the Cold War, these funds and arms and equipment were going to paramilitary groups and ultranationalist groups that were basically against hardline anti-communists. And this resulted in a number of different operations, events, and outrages that ultimately were blamed on communists as a way of trying to basically cripple the political left in Europe during that period. And perhaps the best known of those outrages and atrocities was the 1980 Bologna bombing, which killed 85 people and wounded 200 more. That was again directly linked to this Operation Gladio. It was eventually exposed in the early 1990s in the Italian Parliament, and eventually that resulted in an outcry that was supposedly going to kick off a European parliamentary investigation that never actually occurred. But we've been led to believe in a lot of the English language media and in the Western world that this was specifically focused on Europe, and it specifically started and ended with the Cold War. But in fact, as more information continues to come out about it, we start to see that in fact the field of operations of Operation Gladio really is global, and that it continues to this current day.
Well, let's talk about that transition. I mean, very shocking. I didn't even really understand the extent of Operation Gladio until I was watching your series. I recommend everyone to check that out. A really thorough series, just basically outlining everything that this operation was. As you said, I mean, it's a decades-long operation that consisted of false flag, terror attacks, death, the funding of ultra-nationalist groups to foment terrorism. Let's talk about the transition into Gladio B. You said that there's evidence showing that this is actually still happening today, and it's actually morphed into something else. What is that, and what evidence is there to back that up?
Well, as you say, I had a video series that I conducted earlier this year with FBI whistleblower Sibel Edmonds, and as people may or may not know, she's been referred to as the most gagged woman in the United States by the ACLU and other organizations for having the state secrets privilege applied to her case to classify all sorts of information about what she was working on at her time in the FBI in the translation department at the Washington field office. And basically, the information that she had indicated that there was a change that occurred in this Operation Gladio that occurred in the mid-1990s, and she was specifically focused on the Turkish field of operations. And this is again documented and on the record, although little known and little talked about in Western media. But Turkey was in fact one of the first places where Operation Gladio eventuated, and was in fact one of the central places as a geostrategic window, the bridge, so-called bridge between Europe and the Middle East. It's always had a geostrategic location, and as such was one of the jewels in the crown of the Operation Gladio program. But in the mid-1990s, Operation Gladio started to shift from that funding of paramilitaries and ultranationalist groups in Turkey specifically towards an operation more like what we saw in Afghanistan in the 1980s, where the U.S. specifically was funding and helping and training and arming the Mujahideen in their fight against the Soviets in Afghanistan. And this became the model for what's known as Gladio B. Gladio B is the term that Sibel Edmonds indicates is the actual FBI file that they have on this, the information on this in the FBI. But there is a different name for whatever office in the Pentagon actually works with NATO on this operation. That's still classified. We don't know that, but we do know that it's referred referred to as Gladio B by the FBI. And basically, this is the cooperation of NATO and U.S., including high-ranking U.S. State Department officials and others, with Islamic terrorists, basically, in the perpetuation of the strategy of tension, which can be used as a type of weapon against, specifically in Central Asia and the Balkans, and Central Asia and the Caucasus region, which is an exceptionally important part of the global chessboard, as Zbigniew Brzezinski talks about. And in fact, in his 1997 book, The Grand Chessboard, he identified Central Asia as the absolute key for anyone who wants to have world dominance in this day and age needs to control Central Asia. And that's where we find a lot of these operations now are being based, with U.S. and NATO officials cooperating with Islamic terrorists in order to foment a type of destabilization that is aimed ultimately against rivals Russia and China.
Right, very fascinating. I remember in the video series you're talking about right before 9/11, I think 1997, 2001. I mean, we're talking about al-Zawahiri, alleged top al-Qaeda officials being flown out, fostered by NATO, propagated by NATO and also the CIA and covert forces in the area. You said that this is actually going on still to this day. What are they doing? And explain really how this manifested into perpetuating what we're seeing play off across that region of the world right now.
Well, you're exactly right about that. And again, this comes directly from Sibel Edmonds, who was working directly with the information from the FBI that Ayman al-Zawahiri was meeting with top-level U.S. officials in Baku, Azerbaijan in 1997 to 2001, in that range. And this is important because, for people who don't know, Ayman al-Zawahiri was, of course, Osama bin Laden's right-hand man and is now the nominal head of al-Qaeda itself. So the fact that he had such high-level contacts for so many years with in the heart of the U.S. State Department and with high-ranking officials is an exceptionally big story, for obvious reasons. And the fact that this is still ongoing, I think, is certainly viewable in the context of what's happening in that Central Asia Caucasus region with countries of such importance geostrategically like Azerbaijan and Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, which are in that Caspian Sea basin and that corridor where a lot of the pipelines for those oil resources are being hardwired right now.
And I wanted to jump here really quickly, James, because we have about a minute left, but of course Sibel talks about drug running in this operation as well, from the heroin from Afghanistan. But really quickly, I mean, why haven't more of these allegations been covered in even independent media, James?
Unfortunately, there is a total wall of silence on this, and part of the reason I think the independent media hasn't picked up on it is because there is so much to talk about, and there are so many connections that a lot of people just simply haven't even heard about before. So it is an area of the globe that a lot of people aren't familiar with, and it takes a lot of coaching to get people familiar with some of the players and names and dates. So that's one of the reasons why it hasn't been featured in the independent media, and obviously the mainstream media, unfortunately, as we know, is controlled on these types of subjects and won't go near this type of blockbuster information.
Well, now that you've kind of outlined the preliminary base of knowledge about it, we'll be on again to break it more down. Thank you so much, James Corbett, Corporate Report. Everyone check out the series Operation Gladio.
Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. Good information to know. It is, like I said, it is an octopus within an octopus, and I definitely recommend watching it. It just makes you a little bit smarter about what's going on in the world. And it also gives you a very good perspective of what Team Q and Trump are up against. It's a massive thing. So having a better understanding of how big this problem is, how big this monster is. Okay, you're talking about NATO. Why do you think he took on NATO? It wasn't just about the funding. NATO is involved in a lot of things, like with General Petraeus. Look into that. General Petraeus was a NATO commander. I mean, he was in the DOD, he was in the DOE, I'm just making that up, but he was in a lot of different departments, is what I'm trying to say. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, General Petraeus is still involved behind the scenes, and knowing your enemy and what you're up against gives you a better understanding of why we can't see things happen right now. It's a big thing they're taking on. So let's cut him a little bit of slack on that part. I know it's, we want to see it and we want to see it now. And everybody thinks, well, just go in and arrest them. Well, it's not going to happen that easily. All right. So let me give you, I think that's my last slide. Yeah. Yeah, that's my last one. Okay, let me just give you why the pushback from the truth community, okay? You can see like the one there says the psyop within the truth community. Are you being suckered? And then the guy in the middle is with the black t-shirt and the around the white microphone around his neck, right here, this guy. He's flip-flops. He goes, so if you watch this guy, I don't want to say anybody's name. I'm just not going to do that because everyone has the right to question this. And I don't think it's a bad idea for everyone to, let's not get your hope up so far that if it doesn't happen, that we get like down in the dumps, especially the new people. Okay, the old people, we're used to this. We're used to battling this thing. Okay, but it's my theory is this. It is not. It would take a massive team of people, which is, I'm sure, the military, right? The Marines, the white hats, to combat this. But this has been in play for hundreds of years, and it's not going to end tomorrow. It's just not. So I want any of my subscribers I need to make you aware of the truth is this isn't going to go down really, really fast. I mean, what we've been seeing is proof that this is going on. So my feelings are hope but verify, right? Trust but verify. So we're just going to wait and see what happens. We have to see some high-level arrests. But that's not it. If they parade 2 or 3 big guns, let's say they sacrifice Hillary Clinton and Huba Abedin, right? Which looks to me to be the top 2 contenders for the first set of ankle bracelets and a plane to Gitmo. How this is going to go down, we don't know. Could this be a psyop? It could be. It could be. It could be part of the problem reaction solution. This is why people are fighting it. It is so hard for some of us that have been around for a while to wrap our minds around the fact that this could actually be being solved. At the same time, we see the sophistication of the Q post. It's very whoever's doing this knows what they're doing. Okay. The theory out there is that you're going to hear this from some people, and I think this is going to start coming out more and more, and we have to resist it. We just have to know and dig in, and don't get sidelined on some crazy theory, okay? The proof is going to be in the pudding, and let's just say Donald Trump tomorrow took everything down. You don't think there's going to be some people that are going to try to climb their way back up? Yeah, it's just something we're going to have to fight forever. But I do have hope, guys. I do have hope. And I do think Q is real. And I do think the Q team is real. But let's give the older people, the people that have been studying this for some time, a little bit of a little slack. Okay. It's hard for some of us to think that unless it's such an octopus, it's such a massive amount of things that would have to be taken down. But I do have to say, Trump has gone after NATO. He's gone after the Middle Eastern states that are bad actors. He's gone after, he's basically taking back our economy, which is a big thing. So I am hopeful. I believe that Q is real. Okay. So I'm not saying that. I'm trying to give a perspective of, don't get too upset with some of these older people that are resisting. It's just, they can't wrap their mind around the fact that Trump could be good. We don't need to worship Trump. It's great. He's a good president. Thank God for him, because if we had Hillary, it would be. And there's lots of reasons to believe in Q. They'd have to have direct access to his Twitter. A lot of people, don't understand that, we're not just like saying, oh, we're just swallowing the Kool-Aid. We'll swallow the Kool-Aid fully after it's been tested for cyanide. So we're just waiting. We need to see some things happen that verify. So, trust but verify. Okay, I'm going to stop going on and on, but I wanted to give the younger people, the newbies, I hope this helped you a little bit understand. You got to understand some of the history. It's vital. I think I'm just going to make a video that just gives you a list of things to look up, but start with looking into the Operation Mockingbird, and also look into Operation Paperclip, and and definitely watch the videos on Gladio B. I think you'll learn a lot about how the world really works and what we're actually up against here. So maybe this will have, well, we can have a little patience with Q and Trump. Okay. You guys take it easy, and I'll talk to you soon.